Hi guys. In the last video I went over how I recommend brainstorming for the personal essay, personal statement. Um, but this way is also really great. So I want to take a minute to talk about it and walk through it to sort of as an example of what it's like for you. It's the college essay guy's object exercise, and we can look at the link to his instructions in a minute. So the whole process, he says, takes about 15 minutes and a quiet place. So grab a notebook or some paper to jot down some ideas. I'm going to model it for you here, but you can also use his website, which is slightly more thorough. So the idea behind the object exercise of brainstorming is by the author T.S. Eliot, who said, the only way to express emotion in art is through an objective correlative. What's an objective correlative? It's an object to which you correlate emotions, memories, and complex meaning. Basically, it's an object that's more than an object and isn't everything. So what you're going to be creating is something called an essence box, which I hate the name of, but whatever. So every object in your essence box is an objective correlative for some important complex part of you. Let me explain. So step one, imagine a box in your mind. This box is where your essence objects go. And each one of the objects you choose will represent a fundamental quality about yourself. So in this sense, the objects you imagine in that box are also like metaphors or stand-ins for something fundamental about who you are. So you've got the box pictured. Now, step two, you're going to make a list of 20 objects. I'm going to do 5 objects really quick just so that you can kind of get a sense of it. And I came up with the objects from literally just like staring at my desk and what's on it. So here are my 5 objects inside my box and what I think would make them like profound or a stand-in for an emotion. So one, I have a yellow legal pad. I take notes on these and I do all my brainstorming. So I was like, maybe the yellow legal pad could represent my brain and like the space for creativity. I don't know. So mark that down. And then I use these like Muji pens that are like 0.38 millimeters, very fine, so that I can write small and have them still be readable. I don't know if there's any profundity in that, but there you go. 3, I have a scented candle because I like them. And 4 is this little Snoopy figurine that I just had to go get. That's usually on my desk, but for some reason was not. And then my 5th object is a mini Snickers bar. So, okay, let's just pretend that the list is 5. So let's proceed to step 3. So step 3, now that I have 5 or 20, it's time to review and see if any ideas pop out. Do any of them strike you as worthy of writing a whole essay on? So this is something that you'll do after you make your list of 20 objects and then like look through them and be like, okay, is there anything in any of these objects? Like, why do I have these objects? Why are they important to me? So like to sort of start the brainstorming process, while I kind of like the idea of the legal pad being like my brain, and like where I think through things, it kind of still, I don't know, it just seems like a little boring. So I'm going to skip over that. And then pens are also super boring. So I'm sure I could find, like, I'm a writer, so I have my own pens. Like I could find meaning in it, but honestly, I just recommend these pens, Muji, M-U-J-I. And then, okay, scented candle, I don't know, TBH, that kind of makes me sound bougie, so I'm going to opt out of this one too. So that just leaves my little Snoopy figurine and mini Snickers. I guess I could spend the mini sneakers as I take breaks and self-care, but it still seems kind of lame to me, so I'm going to go with this Snoopy object that I picked. So a little bit about this Snoopy object and why I have it, because it seems like a little childish, right? Let me explain. So this object stands out to me because I'm not really a big fan of collectibles or Snoopy, but it has a personal memory tied to it. So the memory was years ago, one of my students was being bullied for being gay, and he's having a really hard time about it. And in class, we were doing journal writing prompts. So I had been reading about how hard he was struggling with this in his journals. And one day he hung back after class and told me more about what was going on. We both ended up crying because, I mean, also I was once a closeted gay high schooler as well. That shit's real. But at the end of it, we both sort of felt better. And importantly, like he felt inspired to write more. So he went on to like go above and beyond in my class. And I just saw him learn so much about writing and sort of like become his own person through that. So for me, like this Snoopy object is sort of like a teacher win for me. It's like, this is why I'm doing this. And he ended up giving this to me like at the end of the year, maybe it was Christmas, as like a thank you. He's like, this was my favorite figurine and I want you to have it now. Like, so like, anyway, so precious. But so that's like, there's a lot of meaning in that little Snoopy figurine that I have. And this is also great fodder for a personal statement because it tells the reader what my values are. It shows my commitment to my students by describing one specific story about them. So it says a lot about me, even though I'm not talking about myself at all, except for the line, I'm also gay. So this is like a good example of if you're like, I'm really boring, I hate writing about myself, this is torture, is like, you don't have to write about yourself. You just have to write about like your reaction or your attachment to like a little Snoopy thing, or even like your favorite pen brand. Like anything can be made profound if you attach your own meaning to it, right? And that's what the personal statement's about. So like, again, so like talking about yourself is super weird. I hate writing about myself, but that doesn't mean you can't make a personal statement that's about you. So all in all, like I'm pretty happy with the Snoopy essay idea, especially if I'm like applying to go to college to be a teacher or a counselor in this imaginary world where I'm writing personal statements. But like the other layer of this personal statement example is that like you always want to make it come back to college and what you'll accomplish there. So like I've got this mini Snoopy that I'll start writing about, and then I'll go into like how it speaks to my values and how like the student grew from it. And now I keep it as a reminder. And that whole time I'm like shining myself, but like low key, right? Like, oh, the student was like so inspired and he went, you know, whatever. But it also like, I'm still not talking about myself, I'm talking about my students. So think about that as you guys do this object list. That's about it for the object list, but let's go over his website about it really quick, just so you can see. So here's the College Essay Guy's website. You've got all of the things you need, and then he's got a video explaining it where he goes over his personal objects, and then you can even have an audio. And then here is the sort of description of it. And then if you are having a hard time coming up with the objects exercise, he's got 20 questions to help you with it. So what's a food that reminds you of your family? What's something that reminds you of home? What's an object that represents one of the people who raised you? This probably would have been a good idea to read these before I started my own. But anyway, this website is great. And then if you're still if you're still kind of stuck, the next lesson that he has is called a values exercise, which is just basically you can write down, here's a list of all of these values, and you can circle or print out or write down the ones that are the most important to you. And that's one way of sort of choosing what you want to say about yourself. So this website's really good. It's jam-packed with a lot of things. And you guys know, you can just shoot me a text if you need some more help brainstorming. But in the meantime, I'm excited to read what you guys come up with. Bye.